Dhruv never imagined that a sound could rewrite a life. It began when he was 9, during a summer storm that rattled the windows of his small home. Rain hammered the tin roofs, frogs croaked their nightly chorus, and lightning sketched the sky like cracked glass. Dhruv sat near his bedroom wall, tracing patterns with his finger, trying to distract himself from thunder he feared but secretly admired. That night, the thunder carried a second layer, something like speech buried under noise. He pressed his ear to the damp plaster. Under the rumble, he heard a sentence stitched into the thunder's tail, faint but deliberate. Some storms come early to test the listener. He pulled back, breath short, heart sprinting. He told himself it was imagination. He told himself 1,000 times. But the line returned, not always in storms. Sometimes in clattering trains, sometimes in ceiling fans spinning too fast, sometimes in silence between clock ticks. By 13, he had learned not to flinch. He learned to listen. At 17, listening became a hunger. Dhruv's village, Arjunpur, sat on land older than maps admitted. The soil was iron-rich, staining groundwater red during monsoon. The well behind his house was sealed decades before his birth, not by authorities, but by consensus. It was a stone well with a rusted iron lid fused shut, surrounded by neem trees and rumor. No one fetched water there. No one spoke of it without lowering their voice. Dhruv's grandmother once told him that old structures absorb more than moisture. They absorb intent. He didn't understand then. He did later. After school, Dhruv studied patterns in sound. He wasn't musical. He was analytical. He devoured books on acoustics, the science of how sound behaves. He learned that echoes are not copies, but reflections shaped by distance, surface, air density, and interference. He learned about infrasound, vibrations below 20 Hz, too low for human ears but capable of influencing mood, discomfort, and even panic. He learned that the human brain fills ambiguous sound with meaning through a process called auditory pareidolia. Like seeing faces in clouds, but hearing words in noise. Yet what he heard wasn't pareidolia. It responded to context. It responded to emotion. It responded to him. One evening at 19, during a power cut, Dhruv stepped into his courtyard with a candle. The flame stretched upward, steady but nervous in the wind. Cicadas droned from the trees like electric wires humming. The candle hissed softly. Then the hiss folded into speech. Decisions have resonance. Some linger. Some shatter. Dhruv felt a cold bloom along his spine. He whispered back, almost joking, almost pleading, "And what does mine do?" The flame flickered once, long, like a slow blink. The echo came not from the well, but from the air around it. Yours will reveal before it heals. He didn't sleep that night. By 20, Dhruv left for university in Jaipur, carrying the echoes like luggage he never packed. The city was louder, wider, full of layered sound, traffic, metro brakes, crowd roar, distant temple bells. But the echoes sharpened there, evolving from sentences into signals. Before every major decision, Dhruv heard the emotional outcome before the event itself. When his roommate Rohan considered cheating on an exam, Dhruv heard chalk scrape a warning across a blackboard in his mind. The dishonest pass but don't proceed. He intervened, convincing Rohan not to. Weeks later, Rohan thanked him, unaware of the echo. When Dhruv considered confessing his feelings to a girl named Aisha, the echoes arrived in overlapping cafe noise. Hearts spoken too soon bruise longer than silence. Dhruv hesitated. He waited. Months later, Aisha confessed first, and their story grew gently instead of breaking. Listening saved him. Listening protected him. Listening isolated him. Because no one else heard it. After graduation, Dhruv joined an international market research firm. Not a bank, not a coaching institute, but a company that analyzed human decisions for global brands. His job was to decode consumer psychology, predict outcomes from behavioral data, and model emotional impact for campaigns across countries. The irony wasn't lost on the universe. He analyzed emotions for corporations, while corporations of sound analyzed emotions for him. The echoes adapted again, syncing with his career. In conference room static, he heard, "Forecasts impress markets. Outcomes impress minds." In printer noise, "Proof convinces boards. Outcome convinces people." The echoes pushed him toward psychology, not superstition. Toward consequence, not prophecy. At 23, Dhruv returned to Arjunpur for Diwali break. The village smelled of ghee lamps, firecracker smoke, sweet damp hay, and returning secrets. The sealed well waited unchanged, but the world around Dhruv had changed shape. That night, under lantern light, Dhruv met Kara, the new neighbor who had moved into the abandoned research house beside the fields. Kara was 18, sharp-tongued, endlessly curious, and allergic to simple explanations. She loved riddles, star facts, and anything unexplained. She asked Dhruv about the well without fear, without reverence, with appetite. Dhruv tried to dismiss it. Kara crouched near the well's base, brushing moss like it was an old friend. She tapped the stone twice. A hollow thud returned. She grinned. Empty. So why are people full of fear about it? Dhruv knelt beside her, lowering the lantern, because they believe it speaks. Kara raised an eyebrow. And you? Dhruv hesitated. The lantern hummed with insects. Then the insects hummed a line for him. Curiosity invites the second echo. He exhaled. I believe outcomes speak louder than ghosts. Kara smiled at that. Maybe too much. Diwali ended, but the echoes didn't. Kara visited Dhruv daily, sitting in his courtyard with tea, asking him to explain sound science, myths, and star trivia. Dhruv told her that stars produce plasma waves that can oscillate like sound. The sun itself rings with acoustic pressure waves that bounce inside it. Helioseismology is the science that studies those vibrations. Stars don't send messages, but their vibrations carry information about their structure. The universe speaks in waves, not words, unless the listener forces context into chaos. Kara absorbed every fact like oxygen. Then one night, she asked him to open the well. Dhruv said it was sealed. Kara said seals are invitations for evidence. Dhruv tried to warn her. The echo arrived through distant dull music. Some lids protect futures that curiosity can't afford. Kara didn't hear it. She didn't need to. She felt it. Dhruv saw her standing on the lid at midnight, trying to pry it with an iron rod. Sparks scratched the stone. Dhruv rushed out. She froze. He took the rod gently. The wind sighed a new echo between them. The one who opens first hears last. Dhruv whispered, let's not open things that won't close. Kara smiled again. This time smaller. But her curiosity didn't shrink. It metastasized. Weeks passed. Dhruv joined Kara in decoding the research house mystery instead. Safer, cleaner, but still strange. The house had abandoned lab notebooks, chemical stain patterns on walls, and audio tapes that carried nothing but static. The tapes were old magnetic cassettes. Dhruv tested one in a player. The static hissed, then folded. The experiment was never time. It was outcome. Dhruv froze. Kara leaned in. What? Dhruv lied. The tape whirred louder, louder, then whispered again. The listener becomes the dataset. Dhruv unplugged the player. Kara snatched the cassette. She played it again when he left. The echo came through the village speakers during a wedding procession. The one who tests echoes becomes the control group. Dhruv rushed back. Kara sat pale, lips dry, notebook shaking in her hand. She had heard it too. Not words. Patterns. Signals. The echoes had found a second listener. But listeners aren't equal. Drew's ability had grown from storms. Kyra's grew from hunger. They researched the house's past. They found no names, no ownership, no records, no census mention, no academic mention, no research permits, no death records, no birth mentions. The house existed physically but not bureaucratically. That was the first global fact that made the mystery believable. Some locations are deleted not because they are false, but because they are inconvenient datasets. Drew contacted his old psychology professor to understand the emotional effect of sound warnings. His professor said the brain believes patterns more than sentences. If your story delivers believable facts every 3 to 4 minutes, YouTube will index it faster, audiences abroad will share it more, and your retention curve will spike. Drew applied that to storytelling without meaning to. The echo applied it back. The sealed well remained shut. But the future had opened. Drew and Kara began recording audio patterns from the house. Not words. Not ghosts. Just consequence waves. But every wave had a shadow. And shadows have their own echoes. Drew began hearing overlapping echoes now, his and hers. When Kara considered sending the tapes to a journalist, the echo split into warning sirens in his mind. Public curiosity is viral. Private curiosity is fatal. Drew stopped her again. This time urgently. She snapped. Why are you scared now? Drew whispered the truth. Because some echoes spread, and some end the speaker. The wind rang the last line of the night around them. The one who interprets first survives interpretation. Drew looked at the well. Then at Kara. Then at the sky full of vibrating stars that never cared about human fear. But cared about outcomes. And outcomes had chosen him. Drew realized the well didn't need to be opened anymore. It had already leaked into sound. It had already traveled beyond stone. It had already become narrative. The final twist he hadn't expected, but maybe the world had. The well was never the source. Drew was. The echoes were never predictions. They were audits. Emotional audits. Consequence audits. Listener audits. And he had passed every test by listening with logic, not frenzy. But logic has its own burden. When you listen to the future, you become responsible for the present. Drew accepted the burden. Kara accepted the mystery. The well accepted the silence. The universe accepted the waves. And the waves continued.